We are live. Oops, I'm not approved. Okay, well, let's just go live. Let's go again. If not, LinkedIn says I'm not approved for it. So we'll just remove LinkedIn and
go on Facebook.
Go on Facebook. Yeah.
Perfect.
There you go. Okay, so let's just save changes. We're live on Facebook. They saw me go through all of that. So
perfect. Hi, everyone.
Welcome to our first edition of Chats During Naps with Boss Moms. Today, I am so excited to introduce to you all Kate McGill Johnson of Heritage Business Services, and I want to brag about her a little bit. She's a fellow military spouse. She also got her bachelor's degree from Baylor University, and she got her MBA from Yale School of Management. So thank you so much for coming on. You are here to talk to us about bookkeeping, which every business owner needs, especially during the longest tax season on record. I believe this has to be the longest tax season any of us have ever gone through.
I think so. Never ending. It's not over. So it's not over. Longer.
Right. I think it ends in July. Does it end in July?
Yeah, but I'm hearing like rumors of people saying pushing it back all the way to like the corporate deadline this fall too. So I don't know. Everyone just file your taxes, people. Just file your taxes.
Right. Just get your paperwork together.
Exactly. Don't let it hang over your head.
That's right. That's right. So I want to hear from you, busy mom of 3 and running your own bookkeeping service. When do business owners need to hire a bookkeeper?
Okay. Well, so that's a good question. I mean, you need to be, ideally you need to be making money it's an expense, right? So, if I'm a big believer in, not buying stuff that you can't afford. So, don't put, I don't think you should put anything in your business on your credit card and get into debt to do it. So for sure, not paying for the services of a bookkeeper. But it just depends on where you want to go and what your goals are. If you're probably most like solopreneur type of operations can get by doing it themselves for a while. If you're going to have a big brick and mortar store, if you're going to open a restaurant, those efforts, you're going to need to be paying tons of employees and all that. So it just kind of depends. But likely, if you're opening up a large operation like that, you're probably getting a significant like small business administration loan or something, and that would be the way you would fund it. But my understanding is your audience is kind of more the mompreneur, solopreneur type. Is that correct?
That's correct. A lot of the folks that tune in are side hustlers turning it into an actual business, folks that are in the early stages of their business and they're looking to grow. And then we even have a few folks that are seasoned and they just want to make sure that their books are aligned properly.
So Well, I was just going to say, so, I mean, I actually kind of have an equation that I use in my head. Like you hire a bookkeeper just like you would hire any sort of consultant in your business whenever you can make more money than what that service costs you. So if you can go sell another house, because your real estate agent business is growing, instead of spending, 20 hours on your books because you don't know what you're doing, if you can go sell like 1 or 2 houses in that amount of time, I mean, it's a no-brainer. You hire a bookkeeper because a bookkeeper doesn't cost as much as you would make if you sell another house. So if you are a writer, if you produce something, if you sell stuff on Etsy, that's when the trade-off happens. If you find someone who their services are less than what you can make in that same amount of time that you're doing it yourself, that's when you've sort of hit that pivot moment and you can outsource a task like bookkeeping. I think bookkeeping is a great task to outsource because most people, especially people with limited time, it's one of the things that they're least good at, and it doesn't make money. Bookkeeping doesn't make you money. It's a cost center.
Right.
So that's kind of my long answer about when to hire a bookkeeper.
Okay. What about those instances where you have someone that is transitioning from a side hustle to a more structured type of business? Now they want to get incorporated and they want to do things the right way. Do bookkeepers also offer a bit of a consultant period, if you will, to say, hey, this is how you would set up your books, and then you could manage that, or excuse me, that business owner can manage it going forward until they actually need a dedicated bookkeeper to keep them on task. What are your thoughts on that?
So for sure, I mean, that's a service that I offer. I think it's pretty wise because so you have to spend a little bit amount of money. I do all of my work virtually, so I would screen share with you, and we would be inside your bookkeeping software. I would be recording it. You'd get the recording. So if you wanted to go back and listen to something, how did she do that bill pay thing again? You could go back, and it would help. So if you come to a bookkeeper like 18 months after you've been in business and your books are an absolute train wreck, that's going to cost much, much more than if you spent 3 hours of time for, and I would recommend if you do hire someone like that, you're not going to be able to retain everything. So hire a bookkeeper for, 3 to 5 hours of training, but over 2 to 3 to 5 weeks, 1 hour a week because that way you're not going to get it all done at once, and that way your business has occurred and you've had transactions and everything is more real instead of theoretical at that point. You've been putting charges on your business bank account, debit card, and so that's something we can work with now. So I would do that, and that's going to save you a lot of money. Then when you come and say, hey, Kate, my books are terrible. I have really done nothing. And what I tried to do, I made it worse. And I've been around for 18 months. Can you get me straightened out? That's going to cost way, way, way much more than if you had just hired someone for setup and some guidance. And I have one bookkeeping friend that calls it, she has some clients that are on the phone a friend program. So she knows enough about their business to where it's, she kind of keeps a pulse on it. And then they call her whenever they need her, and some months they don't. So that is an option for people who are on the beginning side.
Okay. You bring up a very good point, the phone a friend part of it. Do you feel that a bookkeeper should have some knowledge of their client's industry?
So, I mean, that's ideal. And a lot of bookkeepers, in my line of work, there's a lot of discussion around whether you should niche, and like, do I only serve real estate developers or real estate agents, or some people might the more specialized you can be, the reason why that's good is because then that bookkeeper has a lot of almost like comparisons. So you're more valuable to say you were like, I have a friend who's a bookkeeper for truck drivers, and so she's, if you've got books for 20 truck driving companies, you'll be able to tell this one guy, you don't give away the secrets of the other company, but you say, you know what, everyone else's fuel costs are X% and yours are Y%. Why are yours so much higher? Because I have all these real life examples where they're not as big as yours. What's going on? Do you need to get some sort of a discount, wholesale something like that? And so that's why a bookkeeper having industry knowledge is good. I don't have a niche. I like to say my niche is nice and smart people, because I just don't have time for the jerks out there. So for me, that's more important than the benefits that come with niching. I find that the benefits of me having my niche being nice and smart people means that it doesn't matter that I don't have only real estate agents or only lawyers, because I just want to work with people who, if they're good businessmen and women, then they're typically a good bookkeeping client for me. But yeah, I mean, it's better. I mean, if you have a bookkeeper so niching bookkeepers are probably going to be more expensive than a generalist. So depends on how complex your business is. Lots of mompreneur businesses are probably not that complex. So I don't know. General feedback, a non-answer. Sorry about that.
No. That actually answers a lot, because now people can get an idea from a pricing perspective what type of bookkeeper are in their budget. And I tend to like a generalist bookkeeper in that, there's an opportunity for you to give them some feedback on what other industries are doing and how they might be able to implement some of those best practices into their business. So I think a generalist offers just as much value as someone who niche down and it only supports a specific industry.
Right.
So we talked about pricing a little bit. What can someone expect, like an average range for to pay a bookkeeper?
So I have an hourly rate that I do for training. The better I get at my business, that rate goes up. It's gone up since I've started my business. I mean, I'll just say right now, I charge $70 an hour for my hourly work. That is not my ideal client. I mean, I know that people listening to this, some of them might be earlier on, and if you're nice and if you're smart, you can call me. But ideally, I would be working with someone on a recurring basis. And so then the way I price is like a fixed fee value price type of a thing. So some months, if things are busier, that affects me. If some months they're not as busy, then you've paid more perhaps, but you're not going to feel like you have. On my end, I'm just doing the books and I'm producing your reports, and you're being told, I'm giving you a debrief at the end of the month. Here's where you are. Here's your profit margin. Here's and I am able to tailor what I emphasize based on the client's business and what they're interested in. If you really want to know, like, how much am I spending in software, I feel like I've subscribed to like 9 jillion things, then I would point that out. But if you don't care, then it's still in the books, but I'm not going to worry about that or talk about it. So I try to do monthly pricing. I'll tell you the truth. I have a client that I charge $100 a month for. We have that client on a free software called Wave. So that fee is, I'm not having to cover that fee. And it's a very simple business. It's two gentlemen. They have day jobs as well, and I think they feel like they love me. I mean, they think they can't live without me, and I feel like I'm being compensated fairly because of just the nature of their business. Now, most businesses are actually not quite as simple as a lot of people think, but this business actually is. So I'm able to still do what I need to do to serve them, and not have to charge a ton. But I have clients up to like $400 a month, where I'm doing quarterly sales tax payments as well, payroll. So that's my current range, and I'm mostly dealing with sort of smaller operations. No one with big giant, places where they work. No big offices. Everyone's kind of just smaller scale, and that's the range that I'm in.
Okay, that's good to know. So the less transactions, the simpler a business is, the lower end, right? And if you have to, or any bookkeeper in general, if they have to do payroll, complex transactions across different, payment mediums, so to speak, credit card, ACH, wiring, transfers, maybe international transactions, the higher it goes. So that's important to know. What is the difference? And take a step back, because of your training, I would highlight, or I would assume that, a bookkeeper could also charge more based upon the type of experience they bring to the table, right? So let's say if a bookkeeper graduated and completed community college courses, their pay scale with on-the-job training might be different than someone who brings corporate finance, to the table. Would you agree with that?
Yes. I know a lot about the bookkeeping industry. So I guess my response to that is, and I don't know if there might be people in your ecosystem that are even considering this line of work. I don't think that should be a discouragement. If you can have a strong network, I can tell you there's at least one client that I have that I know for certain knew nothing about my background. It was a father from the school pickup line. We would have this. My kids' school is open on Fridays for lunch, and I was sitting across from him, and I'm certain that he had not looked at LinkedIn or anything like that. He needed help, and he needed it quickly. Turns out I do have degrees, but I wasn't. My degrees were not in bookkeeping, so I don't want. I had to as way past my school years, I had to learn something new to be able to do this line of work. But so I don't want people to be discouraged by that. Once you're good, no one's going to be asking where you went to school. I think the certifications that I have that are pertinent to bookkeeping, which are not related to what schools you go to, I think those are probably much more important. People are impressed that I have my QuickBooks Advanced certification. You can get certified in a lot of softwares. So if you can solve their problems, then you can charge. You do need to learn accounting. So yes, take accounting courses. There's stuff online. There's lots of different ways to learn accounting. But yeah, I would just kind of keep that off of the because so for me, I'm a business owner, and when I go to hire a business owner, I don't ask for their resume.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't provide my resume to clients. I mean, I have a LinkedIn profile, but that's not how I operate because that's not what a business owner does. I'm not trying to get a job, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah. And so that also highlights a very important aspect is that, as a bookkeeping business, right, this is a service that you provide to clients and you're building relationships. You're not necessarily going in as a temp to hire, right?
No, not at all. Exactly. I don't want that kind of a job.
Yeah.
You can do bookkeeping like that, and if that's where you are, I mean, because I have the headaches of entrepreneurship, which if I wanted to just get a job as a bookkeeper, I would not have, and those are real, website stuff and marketing stuff and networking stuff. That's real, and it takes time, and you don't get paid for any of that.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. Now, we were talking about having to take a course in accounting. What are the primary differences between bookkeeping or a bookkeeper, and a CPA?
Okay, so a CPA in America, at least, like I don't know the distinctions elsewhere, but a CPA has passed an exam, a rigorous exam. They also have to have a certain number of hours of school, college and graduate school, and then they also have to have a certain number of hours of work. And they are able to do things. I think they can represent people before the IRS. Not all CPAs do represent people before the IRS, but that's like something you can do if a client is in arrears on taxes, or in a bad behind, or did something fails an audit, that sort of thing.
Right.
So CPAs do that. CPAs can do all sorts of things. There are CPAs who do bookkeeping. So bookkeeping is, I think of bookkeeping as kind of ongoing. Like some people, if your business is big enough, you might need to do bookkeeping every day. Like in my own business, I don't do my own business bookkeeping every day. It's not necessary, but some companies are large enough where they would need to do that. So bookkeeping is kind of ongoing. I think interaction with an with accounting or with a CPA, that can be much more like one-off. Like the accountant is hired to do taxes or to provide advice on, do I pay sales tax in this new state or something like that? That's not an ongoing issue. The bookkeeper then will say, okay, we pay sales tax now, so let's start to day-to-day, follow that. So that's how I think of bookkeeping. Bookkeeping is kind of ongoing. It has to be done, and an accountant really can't do their job without the bookkeeping being done. If there's a problem that the accountant has to solve, well, they have to say, well, give me the sums, give me the transactions, tell me what all went on. So that bookkeeping might be done at one time, like if you have to clean something up, or ideally the bookkeeping has been done on an ongoing basis, so it's not a nightmare.
No, that's good. And that's definitely good to see that bookkeepers are very much in alignment and work closely with the CPA in
Mm-hmm.
order to make sure that, the owner is within compliance, and that all of their data is, laid out in an organized fashion, right?
Uh-huh.
So what makes for a good bookkeeper?
So, like, if someone's wanting to hire a bookkeeper, like, what do they look
Right.
for?
Right.
Um,
Well, they've hired a bookkeeper, but I guess, what's the difference between like a great bookkeeper and a meh, meh bookkeeper?
oh my. Um, so I think a great bookkeeper is also smart about business. So it
Hmm.
so let's be honest, bookkeeping is adding and subtracting. There's really not even multiplying and dividing. I mean, kind of, sort of, but not really. So we're not talking rocket science here. Sometimes it's just the sheer amount of overwhelming, like the amount of
Hmm.
transactions can be overwhelming. But bookkeeping is not rocket science. The hard part about business, though, is so now I have these numbers that truthfully, probably about a 12-year-old, like if you gave a 12-year-old these numbers, they could add and subtract. And with a computer these days, that's done even more easily. Uh,
Hmm.
what do those numbers mean? What do I do with those numbers? What does it mean that my payroll expense is a certain amount, or can I afford to hire someone, that first employee?
Hmm.
That's a huge
Right.
step in a business, and it's very
Yeah.
nerve-wracking. Do I have the cash flow? Like, how much cash do I need to save to be able to say, "Okay, I'm gonna hire this employee. They're gonna" Now I have that pressure of, like, this person's family is depending on me to
Hmm.
keep this business afloat, to feed so they can get a paycheck, so they can feed their family. That is a much more soft,
Hmm.
strategic, gray, it's not black and white area. And that's where I think a good bookkeeper who's, they're very intimately involved with your business, but it's beyond the addition and subtraction. They're going to be that consultant. They're going to be that person that you call, like, oh, I'm thinking about buying a truck for my flower delivery business. Do I do it? Well, then you call your bookkeeper before you do that. You do if the bookkeeper's a good bookkeeper.
Right.
If not, then you just go do crazy things, and then the bookkeeper hears about it later, and they're like, "What are you doing?" Um,
Right. And the business owner is like, YOLO.
yeah,
Right.
like, here I go, bought it off Craigslist. Um, so I think that's what would make a good bookkeeper, is just someone who's also wise to business, because you do not have to be wise to business to be an excellent um, technical bookkeeper. And some bookkeepers, um, I might even consider myself some of that. I'm like, I'm expanding my team. Um, there are businesses and types of bookkeeping that I'm not as adept at, and so I have hired people whenever some of my clients have gotten into more complex situations, because I
Mhm.
do have the business mind more than the whoa, like, we need to get some fancy apps in here because things are getting really complicated. I
Right.
I can have someone who's more interested in that do
Hmm.
that, so then I can still be that trusted advisor.
Okay. No, that's great news. And so what I'm hearing, what makes a great bookkeeper is that also being business focused, right? Like profit centered, right? You're
Mhm.
not just looking at, the addition and the subtraction, the numbers of the business. You're also looking at how that impacts the business as a whole. And I like how you mentioned that, you as a business owner are willing to hire folks that may have a specialty that you're not familiar with.
Mhm.
So many business owners, especially at the solopreneur or, the 1 to 10 employees, they want to do everything themselves. And so that's also a very great trait that you bring to the table, helping your business owners as that you're leading by example, saying, hey, look, there are things that I'm not as adept at as I would like to be, right? And so I'm going to pay for a specialized service so that I can focus on things that I'm great at. And
Uh-huh.
so that's also very valuable too. So, now that we're still operating in a pandemic, and
So
many of us are working across the United States, are working from home many for the first time. For us, we're a little seasoned at the remote work. What type of security practices do you follow? I know for a lot of folks that have been at a brick and mortar, now that they're working from home, they may not have the type of security protocols in place for their home office. So what type of security practices do you follow, and how do you ensure that your business owner's data is secure?
Okay, so that's a fair question. I use a password manager called LastPass, and I am a big fan of it. That way, I need to access important things that you as the business owner access, but I don't want the real access. I just want to be able to see. I want to be able to get those bank statements. I don't want to be able. I don't want to know your password. So LastPass is one way. I use Dropbox, which I understand is a pretty secure way to do that. And then the bookkeeping software, a lot of what I do is just kind of in the bookkeeping software. It's hard to kind of explain, but QuickBooks can have two-factor authentication. The payroll companies that I use, they have two-factor authentication. So when I'm trying to I use Gusto, that's my preferred payroll provider that I sort of partner with to provide payroll. And yeah, I have to get a text message every time I want to get on. There's the two-factor authentication. So that's just kind of common. It's the way that the world is going. So all of these apps are, they have it at the forefront of their minds that they have to be worrying about this and thinking about it. So that's how I'd answer that question.
No, thank you. And I just want to highlight for folks that are watching that LastPass has both a free option and a priced option. So if you're an individual, you might be able to use a LastPass for free. If you're a business owner, there are paid options. So, that further adding additional layer of security around your passwords and such. So we are headed towards the end, and I just want to ask one last question.
Okay.
What responsibilities do you assign to the client when they enter in a working relationship with you?
So yes, so that's a really good question. Very astute. So lots of people think, oh, I hire a bookkeeper. La 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 la. Like no, you still there's no way. I mean, if in the olden days when you would have like a business and then you'd have like someone like on site, like maybe they would know enough where the business owner could really be completely hands off, but that's not the case now. So the first interaction, if you sign on with someone like me, the onboarding process is pretty heavy. It's all your logins. It's you're connecting your stuff to QuickBooks or Xero or Wave or whatever your bookkeeper tries to have you use. Lots of like document sharing. So how are you incorporated? And everyone thinks they kind of know, but no. I want to see your actual document because I know what it actually means. So that's annoying. And most people are hiring a bookkeeper because they're like, I don't want to have to do this. But like, there's no way that I know what your tax ID number is unless you tell me. Just get it in your head that there will be some, like if you're like, can't wait to get rid of the bookkeeping, like don't let the bookkeeper can't do things that are like impossible. Then as it's ongoing, the way my workflow goes is I'm mostly doing I can probably do about 95% every month on my own. And then there are a few things that I see that I just don't understand and I don't know. And then I have a workflow where I'm putting notes in a Google Sheet, like the Excel version of Google, but it's like it's live, so then I can send them a link and it says, these are the things I have questions on. And then they're like, oh yeah, I did take a trip, blah, 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 or whatever, which is, fine. But I just like, okay, I'm not talking to you every day. Well, most of the way my business is set up, I don't have clients that I talk to every day. Some bookkeepers work virtually and probably do talk with clients every day, but it just depends on the nature of their business. And so then that 5% that's outstanding, the bookkeeper, the business owner has to explain, and they have to provide the documentation or provide the answer. I have one client who makes videos for me to answer it. One client types responses. There's all sorts of different ways that, okay, here's what it is, and then okay, now I can figure this out. I can finish the books and then provide them to you. I do a debrief every month on a video where I'm filming myself talking, and I'm scrolling through, like on my screen, it's being filmed, like going through the financial statements, and I send that as a first pass. And so I want my clients to listen to that first because I think it's most efficient and it saves us both time. And then once you've watched like the debrief,
that's right,
then we can talk and have our consult. I provide hourly, like a certain amount of hours that a clients can talk to me. But I really want them to listen to my debrief first because I'll probably answer a lot of the questions there first. So then we can get to more less admin stuff and more thinking stuff on those the consulting hours.
Right. No, that is outstanding, and it also makes people more aware of that. It's just not a set and forget type of relationship.
Yeah, no.
Before we close, I just want to ask you, what would you like to close with? What would you like to leave business owners with before we sign off about?
That's a great question. I'm looking at, I have had some thoughts of, so based on the description of your audience, I would just like to say the phrase KISS, keep it simple, silly, keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
There is virtue to that when so I'm a mompreneur as well. And I started when my last child was going to preschool for 3 days a week. I was seeing that on the horizon, and I'm like, okay, and I'm not that far away from that. And you think that if I can just get everything set up, and whenever you're, especially now with the I love that my business is actually pretty simple. I don't have I'm not chasing credit card points. I'm not chasing 1,000 different ways of marketing. I'm not on every social media platform. And that's not even a bookkeeping advice. That's just, you think you have to do all the things, but I have found that keeping it simple, I might miss out on a little bit, but that my overall efficiency is so huge. From a bookkeeping perspective, I see people opening cards to chase credit card points or to change their bank account because they get a signing bonus, and that is not worth it. It is not. It's going to complicate so much, and go make money. Just go make money. Don't try to get credit card points. You'll be better at your business if you just learn how to go make more money.
Right.
So that's what I'll say. Keep it simple, silly.
Right. Keep it simple, silly, and go make more money.
And go make more money.
I love it.
Yeah. So.
Well, that is all the time we have. Kate, thank you so much for being our first guest on Chats During Naps.
I'm tickled.
For anyone that is watching right now, that is Kate's information below. If you guys are looking for a bookkeeper, she is your mompreneur. That is her business address at the bottom. So, Kate, again, thank you so much. And I look forward to keeping in touch with you.
Yes, I do too. I look for, if I can help your community out in any way, shoot me emails. I like talking business, so I'm open for free, a consultation at the beginning to see if we could work well together. I'm excited to see your tribe grow and go make money.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Talk to you later.
Have a great rest of your Thursday.
You too. Bye.
Bye.